A leading critic of space exploration. Sorry, my computer just waited on me. A leading critic of space exploration contends that it would be wrong, given current technology, to send a group of explorers to Mars, since the explorers would be unlikely to survive the trip. But that exaggerates the risk. There would be a well-engineered backup system at every stage of the long and complicated journey. A fatal catastrophe is quite unlikely at any given stage if such a backup system is in place. A leading critique. Sorry. Okay. So what they're saying is that we can't send these people. There's a group saying that we can't send these people because it's dangerous. There's another group saying it's not that dangerous if we give them this backup system. It's quite unlikely that it will happen.
What is our conclusion?
The conclusion is it exaggerates the risk.
Yes, and so we're saying that, but that exaggerates the risk. So what that exaggerates the risk is saying explorers would be unlikely to survive the trip. So
Right.
we say that exaggerates the risk. And why? What is our reasoning for saying that's exaggerated?
Because with a well-engineered backup system, it's going to be a fatal catastrophe is unlikely. So they're basically what they're saying is like there could be catastrophes, but the fatality is going to be unlikely. Like
Yeah, we're saying like at every stage, it's a fatal catastrophe is quite unlikely at
right.
any given so at any given phase, it's unlikely. Why is this a bad argument? Like, do you think that like why is this flawed? That this exact like why might this exaggeration why might this risk not be exaggerated?
So you're going to need one system that accounts for every single stage. Um, I don't know how practical that is. That's first of all, like that. The first thing is like one system is going to have the same degree of safety in every single stage, and the same likelihood in every single stage. Like let's say there's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and the system is great for stage 1, but it's like a little iffy for stage 2, and then it's fine for stage 3.
Or what if it's good for all of the stages, but the likely that they all are perfect is unlikely?
Right, exactly. It's like it's not as long as we don't know the likelihood for every single stage is either the same or perfect. We don't know that.
Excellent. Okay.
That's
So then now let's go into our answer choices. So go ahead and start with A and tell me love it, leave it, or hate it.
so right off the bat when I read this, I thought, first of all, what is that something is true? Something is true. I'm guessing it's referring to that the catastrophe is unlikely. Okay, so we're assuming that the catastrophe is unlikely of the whole because it's true of each part. I don't really think that's relevant.
Okay, so what is true of a whole? Okay, so this is saying that we're assuming something is true of the whole because it is true of each individual part. What would be the each individual part?
I'm guessing the stages, but they didn't really
Yeah,
emphasize.
at every so are we assuming that there's no big risk of the trip because there's no big risk of each individual part of the trip?
That's not what they're saying.
I think that's what they're saying.
But they didn't really focus on that.
We're saying that that exaggerates the risk because at every stage it's quite unlikely. So isn't what this person concluding is that the trip at itself is unlikely to have a catastrophe?
So, yes, so they're saying because it's unlikely at every stage, then the trip itself is safe.
Yes, isn't that what A is saying?
That is what it is saying. Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so let's go on to B.
First, it cannot occur, but the fact that it's unlikely to occur. They do that. I would keep B and get back to it. I'm not they do that, but let's see the rest.
But like, okay, I don't like B because it says infers means concludes that something. Do we say that something is our conclusion that something cannot occur?
Infers means concludes.
Yes.
It doesn't mean implies.
What?
Doesn't mean implies.
Nope, I would say concludes.
No, then it's wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, concludes that something cannot occur because we're like there's a difference between being quite unlikely and not ever happen. We're not saying it could never happen. We're saying it's not likely to happen.
Yeah, then that's definitely wrong.
Excellent. What about C?
Draws a conclusion about what must be the case based on evidence what was probably the case. That's similar to B because it's saying what must be the case. They didn't say it must be the case. They're saying it's
Yeah.
unlikely.
Excellent. Yes.
Right.
Great. What about D?
Concludes that something. I'm gonna just substitute it because at first to me I think implies. So I'm just
No, same. It's a common misconception on the test.
yeah. I'm gonna say concludes that something will work merely because it could work. It's the opposite. They're really concluding that something is not going to happen merely because it could not happen. So I would get rid of D.
Excellent.
Rejects the view merely on grounds that an adequate argument. That's not what they're doing. So it's got to be A.
Yeah. Because like E is saying review rejects if you're merely on grounds that has inadequate. Like we're not saying that there's we don't say like, oh, that can't be true because you have inadequate evidence. Like no,
No,
so
they,
it's
they're not rejecting
definitely A.
the evidence presented that they were countering. It was just their own argument that they were pushing rather than going against someone else's argument.